In this episode, we are going on what I hope to be an adventure of a lifetime. And Rachel thinks that that's a bit ridiculous, but...
Yeah, because you say that every time.
I don't know about every time.
Almost every time.
I have really high expectations for this one. We're headed to Cook's Forest State Park, which is a Pennsylvania bucket list item, something I've wanted to do for quite some time and never been there.
I know you want to do the cathedral hike and see some virgin timber. So we're going to do that one of the days. And then what I'm most excited for is there's a 13-mile stretch of the Clarion River through Cook Forest State Park. We're not going to do all 13 miles.
Although that would be awesome.
We are going to do a day trip on the Clarion River. What did you calculate it out to be?
I'd like to do 8 miles. There's an 8-mile stretch that we're trying to get in. So
we're gonna pack a lunch. We're gonna take the dogs. We're gonna take obviously the children, and we're gonna do a kayak trip.
All the boating that we've done over the last couple trips has been a really good experience.
Fun. Yeah.
So we're hoping that this is, and that's why I'm saying this is a trip of a lifetime, because I'm really excited for this kayak float. So this is going to be a very good series if we can avoid too much rain. It's already starting,
right?
And the river could potentially flood if we get some of this stuff that they're talking about. So, but we'll see. Possibilities are endless, really, for Cook's Forest State Park. So we will see you at the campground. Friends, we have made it to Cook's Forest State Park, and right now we're parked down here at, what is this place called?
On the map it calls it the Log Cabin Environmental Center. On the sign it says Log Cabin Inn or something like that. So I don't know what that place is.
But this is the Forest Cathedral Natural Area, and we're going to be doing the Longfellow Trail and Tom's Run down to the swinging bridge, which Rachel's really excited. She loves swinging bridges.
They can bother me. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're confusing me with someone else.
Okay. But yeah, some of the biggest trees in the state of Pennsylvania are located here. I know some of the real big ones have since fallen over, but we're going to see what there is left to see here at Cook Forest.
It's 1.2 miles and it's more difficult, so an hour and a half it says to do.
And then the game plan for later today is to go take a tour of the fire tower. So we got to be there by 1 o'clock. They're doing guided tours. So we don't have a lot of time down here, but we're going to spend as much time as we can. Behind me you'll see the Tree of Peace, dedicated by a Mohawk Indian chief in 1995. You don't think about it, but not all that long ago the Native Americans was here, and this whole region would have been lots of tribes, apparently Mohawk, which very interesting way to start the hike. And over here on this rock talks about Cook Forest being designated a national natural landmark back in 1967. So yeah, pretty cool sights so far, and we're barely 100 yards away from the truck. My friends, you can already tell how special this place is, but it is always hard to film these old growth forests because the trees on camera never quite show up to be what they really are. But just look at the scene behind me. This one, it's an old white pine, and it's leaning out over Tom's Run. It's crazy how it's just barely hanging on to the ground here.
And this tree's tilted over so it can keep us from slipping and sliding or falling and getting hurt. And then you won't fall off the high cliff. But I would like to go down a bit like
The bark on these white pines is just incredible. I mean, you can just see these big plates. They're like as big as your hand. These are some of the biggest white pines I think I've ever seen. I was expecting more hemlock, but it seems like white pine dominates the landscape here. There's another one there, and there's an incredibly tall one just ahead. The height of these trees is really what's impressive. It's not so much the girth, it's some of them are just incredibly tall. You can't even see the top. Well, and even the one that I'm just standing behind me, you can't see the top. It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that's just different about here compared to everywhere else we've been, is the trees are taller. So back in 1956, a windstorm came through here and took out basically 4 acres of virgin hemlock and white pine. And of course by now all that stuff that fell then is decayed. But it said they did remove most of it to protect the area from wildfires, because when stuff like that happens and then you got a bunch of dry wood laying around, it's obviously a recipe for disaster. You know, we were just thinking as we walked up the trail, the whole state of Pennsylvania used to look like this back before it was logged for the white pine timber. And like you can see why these trees were valuable, right? Because the sign says there was some that was 46 inches in diameter, 200 feet high, so that's a lot of wood they were getting from all them trees back in the day. So yeah, we're gonna walk through this cathedral area where the 4 acres was thrown over, and probably be back into some virgin forest as we move along the trail. So we got all this beautiful forest to look at here, all these big trees. Sorry, you forgot your hiking stick. Like, look at this one here. But then, the kids are more interested in a centipede on the ground, so. But hey, whatever keeps the kids hiking and moving and interested in what you're doing, and it allows you to do what you want to do, then that's good. That's what we're here to do, is explore nature, see what the world around us has to offer. And today we've got virgin white pines and centipedes.
And we get to stand on dogs!
Which I do actually think that that's quite fun as well, so it's been an enjoyable experience so far. So this place, you can kind of see why it's been on my bucket list for quite so long. And actually I'm shocked that it's taken us this long to get here. But you can just see the forest around me. You can really tell it's something special. It's dominated by the white pines, but there are hemlocks here too. And the terrain, we're on the Longfellow Trail, headed up a pretty steep hill. And I believe this takes us to wherever the Longfellow pine used to be. This is probably the best old growth that we've seen, and of course if you've been following the channel, we've been to so many of them. They say there's no old growth forests here in the east, but there really are. They're small in size, but I think there's like 30 of them in the state of Pennsylvania. So probably wherever you're at you can find one. But we're just going to keep on walking up the trail here, and there's this nice creek and gorge beneath us. So it's really pretty. friends, I think this is the biggest hemlock that I've found, living at least, on the trail. It's just before you descend on the Longfellow Trail down to Tom's Run, but this is huge. You can't see anything above it, like up into the canopy, but it's definitely alive. So beautiful forest. I just can't get over, like, the amount of trees here is just incredible.
It's hot. And
It's very hot and it's very humid.
But this is a nice trail, mostly quiet, especially if you don't hike with our children. So anyone else who's hiking this trail today, apologies. So we're not seeing any wildlife, but we're seeing a lot of cool trees.
Easy terrain.
It is. So the map at the beginning said most difficult for the Longfellow Trail. And that is one of the most well-maintained trails I've ever been on in the Pennsylvania State Park system.
Well, the blazes are all there, like everything is the way that it should be.
The path tread is wide and even and well-maintained. Like, that's one of the best trails that we've been on in the Pennsylvania State Park system ever.
Don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid of it. It is not most difficult. It is steep. I don't even know what the elevation change was. A couple hundred feet, 500 or so.
Yeah.
So, in a short amount of distance, but that was easy walking because the trail was so well maintained.
Now we're going to follow Tom's Run down to the swinging bridge, which should be a treat, and we'll just kind of loop back around and show you the creek along the way, and it looks beautiful. The creek and a little bit of change of scenery. As much as I love trees, we're going to film something else. But now our children are causing problems, so we got to go rescue them. So Rachel and I are just walking along Tom's Run here back to the cars. We've left the kids with my parents down at one of the bridges, and the kids are playing in the creek because they've seen a whole bunch of other kids playing in the creek, and
it's hot.
It's hot, and I wish I was a kid playing in the creek. But the sooner we get back to the AC and the truck, the better. And we would like to get up to the fire tower tour, which Rachel's actually really excited about that. Even though I'm not sure that she's gonna make it up in the fire tower.
I'm not.
So
it'll be interesting to hear the history about it.
I'm gonna try to get her to go up, so stay tuned for the rest of this episode to see if she makes it to the top. So we are up here just off the fire tower road. They have like a parking lot and a restroom and stuff here. And they're doing like a 1 o'clock tour of the fire tower. I'm not sure exactly what all that entails, but We'll try to tell you about stuff as we learn it, and I'll try to reiterate things as the tour guide tells us that are interesting, or that I find you might want to know. And I'm pretty excited to climb the tower. We got Sarah here with my dad and Rachel. Yeah, should be an interesting experience, and you know, hopefully we'll get to hear more about what these towers were used for and all that stuff. So it sounds like on the tour we're going to go over to Seneca Point, which is pretty cool, right? We wanted to see that anyway.
Right.
And then we'll backtrack over to the actual fire tower.
Sarah, we're walking.
As long as the little monkey doesn't climb anything she's not supposed to and hurt herself. He was saying that in the late 1800s, around 1880, there was a forest fire in this area, which wiped out pretty much everything up here on the ridge. So there's a very distinct line between the old growth down in the valley, the Clarion River, where we were this morning, and up here of where the fire kind of took care of things up here. So this is considered second growth forest up here on the ridge. He was talking about the holes in the rocks here, the like bowl shaped. That's where the Indians would crush acorns. So they were called Indian mills, and they made flour out of the acorns. And this is the northernmost place for the Cherokee.
And the southernmost for the Seneca.
Yes. So it's kind of like a border line. The Cherokee, there's petroglyphs just south of here. He said you can see from the river. So
That'd be cool.
I don't know if we'll be going that far south on our kayaking adventure on Sunday, but
Maybe. If we're lucky.
And then he was talking a lot about the lumbering, which we've talked about that plenty on the channel.
Yeah, but like something that I'd never heard was like the lumbermen on the rafts would ride from north of here down to Pittsburgh, and from Pittsburgh on the Ohio, and on the Ohio to the Mississippi, down in Natchez, Mississippi. And he said it would take about 6 months, and then
they'd walk back.
Then they'd walk back because they didn't want to spend all of their hard-earned money on transportation back, so they'd walk. So I never knew that. That's really cool.
Yep, so the life of a lumberman, man, would have been incredibly difficult. Some of them, he said, would ride from here to Pittsburgh and then walk back, and that would take, the record was 3 days to get from Pittsburgh to here, 75 miles. Pretty interesting history of the area, from Indians all the way through lumbering. We're gonna be heading over to the fire tower now. Hopefully that should provide some sort of view. Not much of a view from here. He said the park kind of let that grow back up from what it was. Alright, so I know he said it was 95 years old. How many steps?
108.
108 steps, 80-some feet high?
87 and a half.
And this is fire tower number 9. And he was talking about they could triangulate the fires. They needed 3 separate towers.
It's the same concept that they used for those World War II towers they built that we saw on the Delaware seashore.
Yeah, Cape Henlopen.
Mm-hmm. So like they use triangulation to calculate the exact location of a sign of smoke that they would see, and then they'd contact 2 other towers, get their measurements, and then send a ground crew out.
Well, and even with like satellites and navigation and stuff, you need 3 satellites to pinpoint the exact, like, for anything you're doing. If you don't have 3 satellites, you don't have an exact coordinate.
Yeah, it's the same principle used today, so.
But it's just neat how back in the day they were able to think of things and do things, and we're still using the same concepts today. Things haven't changed in the last 100 years.
He said, too, this fire tower was not built to be a fire tower. It was actually built as a tourist attraction, as an observation point. Then later it was used as a fire tower and operated by paid observers. And then for the last, 10 years of its lifespan as a fire tower, it was operated by volunteers. And then after 1970 something, it went back to just being a tourist attraction. So.
Which, like it is now. So he's going to open up the top of it. So, I think you can climb it normally, but you can't get in, the observation room. So that's going to be a pretty unique experience So I'm pretty excited to get up there. These things are always interesting to climb. They're just a little bit shaky, but not too bad. And he said they inspect it every year, so they know it's safe.
That was funny.
I'll tell you what, we looked at what you had that last year.
Alright, so our tour guide was talking about the chestnut oak, which you can see right here in the canopy, and there's quite a lot of it in this area. It's a very interesting tree, and I used to have, and still do, a lot of them on my own property. And we had logged several years back, and they're actually sold as a white oak when they're logged, you know, so there's no difference in the wood between this and a white oak. But the leaves are different, and the bark actually looks more like a red oak. And another name for the chestnut oak is a rock oak. So the fellow who did my property, that's what he was calling them, is a rock oak. So they have leaves like a white oak, the wood is like a white oak, and bark like a red oak. It's very interesting, and the acorns, I believe, is similar to a white oak as well. And so this here, friends, is the chestnut oak or the rock oak on the ground. So this is what the bark looks like. So, like I said, it's very, very similar to a red oak. Rachel, what did you think of the tour and the whole day here at Cook Forest State Park?
I thought it was really great. The guide was really knowledgeable about the local history. A lot of it very interesting anecdotes. The fire tower was cool. Seneca Point?
Seneca Point?
Is that what it's called? I mean,
Kind of lackluster.
yeah, it's grown up, so you can't see. What was that one viewpoint we went to in West Virginia where we were super excited to go out and see the view? And
Babcock State Park.
all you could see was trees.
Yeah.
That was what this was.
But friends, that's it for this episode. So we will see you next week. We are going to be doing a loop hike here in whichever state forest we're in. That's where we're doing a loop hike tomorrow. So that's what you'll see, assuming it doesn't rain. If it rains tomorrow and it's a washout, then next week's episode will be the kayaking adventure that you'll see us be doing on Sunday. So all sorts of cool stuff coming up. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss it, but otherwise just tune in Thursdays at 5 o'clock, and we will see you then. Thanks for watching.